What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Red Crimson 102 here, back again. If you're new to my channel, you already know what to do. Like and subscribe. Hey, this video is called Is Nintendo for Kids Part 2. I've done a Part 1, obviously, but this time I'm doing a Part 2. Is Nintendo for Kids Part 2, as well as video games are for kids, period. Now listen. Check this out, guys. So there's this guy, real annoying, goes by the name of Dragon Elite. So this guy continues to, go back and forth with me with replies on how Nintendo is for kids. And these are one of the guys that, you can tell he's salty because his favorite console is being outsold by the Nintendo Switch, and it's a continuous trend, and it's a very annoying trend because what I realize is, well, actually he's a blogger as well, and we all know what a blogger is, right? A blogger has really two meanings, but I'll go ahead and give you the YouTube meaning. A blogger is somebody who comes in the comment section of any given YouTube channel, rant and complain on how a product is inferior to their favorite product or pieces of plastic. And Dragon Elite, he's one of those guys. Now, as I said before, I've done Is Nintendo for Kids video already, and I'm doing a second one now. Check this out. So this guy goes back and forth telling me how Nintendo's for kids, Pokemon is for kids, Luigi's Mansion, Zelda's for kids, and he's saying to me, you probably like those bright colored games. Man, look, let me tell you something, man. Listen, video games as a whole were designed for kids. Always have and always will. They were designed for kids from the very beginning in mind. And we all grew up with the Atari. Well, many of us older gamers like myself, like grew up in the 80s, 90s, and prior to those years, right? So, we all had an Atari, we all had a Nintendo. We all had a Nintendo as kids, the older crowd, right? And some people moved on because of, life. Life happens and we all move on into adulthood. So we don't have time to think about the video games. So when we look back, the ones that moved on from game will probably say, hey, video games are for kids because they remember playing the video games as a kid. So when you're a child and you do child things, when you get old, when you advance past that, not advance, but when you move on and you look back and you see somebody else playing a video game, automatically you're gonna say video games are for kids because we all remember playing it as a kid. You understand what I'm saying? So we moved on from video games. Well, some of us move on from video games as a kid, into a teenage years, a middle adult, and into a full-grown adult, and you see somebody else playing video games, you say, oh man, video games is for kids because you remember playing as a kid, and that's where you left off at. So when you advance as an adult and you stop gaming, in your mind, you're always going to think video games are for kids, but video games have actually advanced from my time, from my era in the 80s and the 90s, right? So this guy, Dragon Elite, he want to go back and forth with me, and he's just upset that the Switches outselling his favorite piece of plastic. Listen, man, Nintendo has a lot of people that love them, and Nintendo also have a lot of people that hate them. And I notice the people that hate Nintendo, say Nintendo is for kids, are the ones where their favorite piece of plastic is not selling at all. Right? So they're finding ways and they're finding excuses and scapegoats as to why Nintendo is selling. But Microsoft actually did what's that word I'm looking for? Microsoft actually, they did some analytics and they did some research rather, and they found out that more kids have an Xbox. And I'm not surprised. You know how many times over the years I used to play Call of Duty, and all I would hear is a whole bunch of kids shouting in my ears. Actually, majority of the time I went online with the Xbox, it was always kids in a microphone. But when I would play like PlayStation 5, you know, I'll more so hear like young adults or adults, whatever you want to call them. But I didn't really hear that many. I didn't hear any kids shouting and screaming in the microphone. And if you look at Nintendo, right, a lot of older crowd loves Nintendo. When Zelda was having this midnight launch, I didn't see any kids waiting in line. All I saw was full-grown adult men and women waiting for these games. Now, to be fair, some of them may be waiting for their kids, taking the place of their kids because their kids can't, you know, stay up for a midnight launch. But majority of those adults were picking up Zelda for themselves. You know, every time Nintendo had a midnight launch, whether it be for Smash Brothers, it's always the adults I see. When I'm commuting on trains, I remember when I was on the train, I seen this older lady, she had a Nintendo Switch. Several older ladies that had a Nintendo Switch. More so when I'm commuting, honestly, guys, I see adults with Nintendo Switch. I rarely see a kid with a Nintendo Switch, to be honest with you. To be really honest, I don't really see a lot of kids with Nintendo Switches. I more so see adults. I remember several summers ago, I was driving past a shopping center and I seen 4 grown men, right? 4 grown men, big, strong men, just sitting in front of a restaurant, and they had outside seating, like a picnic area, and they both have all 4 men had their Nintendo Switches set up. You get what I'm saying? One in front of the other, so the other guy couldn't see his Nintendo Switch, and they was doing like a LAN play. And I miss those days, you know, with the LAN play, and Nintendo, you know, they brought that back. But, you know, so I basically told this guy, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do a video, and I want to see what the demographic thinks if Nintendo's for kids. And most of the time, people who say Nintendo for kids, man, because those are some of the ones that grew up playing Nintendo as a kid. So it doesn't matter what platform you play on. If you had there are some younger gamers than me that grew up on the PlayStation, and I'm pretty sure when they get a little bit older, they're gonna say, "Hey, you know, PlayStation is for kids." Video game as a whole, guys, are for kids. It doesn't matter what system you play. Somebody that plays on a PlayStation and an Xbox and a PC isn't more macho than somebody that plays Nintendo. Video games are video games, guys. And a lot of people just look at things for face value. A lot of people can look at a game because it has colors in it, bright colors or whatever. Oh, it's automatically for kids. So you might as well say animation is for kids. Animation has color. And you know, anime, whether it's the animated movies or animated games, you could say those are for kids because it has colors, right? But not necessarily. It's just the art style, because anime is usually more adult content, just with colors in it. You understand? It's like a grown-up cartoon, if you want to say, or grown-up games, if you want to say. But video games as a whole were designed for kids. And right now, Nintendo is smashing the competition. So I guess Nintendo and Xbox need to make more kiddie games if they want to sell and outbeat Nintendo, right? But the fact of the matter is, guys, I'm trying to tell this idiot, video games as a whole are for kids. Doesn't matter what platform you play on. I enjoy video games. I don't follow that stigma that some people put on video games or some people put on Nintendo. There's a stigma on Nintendo. Some people seem to think that Nintendo is for kids. I have over 500 plus games from my Nintendo Switch. So you mean to tell me all 500 plus games I have for my Switch are for kids? Really? And you guys can check my channel out and see my Nintendo Switch collection and even my Xbox PlayStation collection. And it's the same games. And the funny thing about it is, if a Nintendo Switch was really for kids, then they wouldn't have the games like The Witcher. They wouldn't have Doom. They have the same exact games that are on other platforms. Granted, the Switch doesn't have all of them, but for the most part, all the PS4, Xbox One, The PS5, Series X, and Nintendo Switch, they mostly have the same game. The same games you can find on the PS4 and Xbox One are also on the Nintendo Switch as well. So I don't get it. So you got Doom, you got The Witcher, you got Xenoblade, you got Metroid, you got so many. There are so many mature games on the Nintendo Switch, right? That are on other platforms. So I don't get it. So if Nintendo has the same games as a competition, how's the Nintendo Switch for kids, but the other systems aren't for kids? But like I said, those guys are just upset because the Nintendo Switch is also their favorite piece of plastic. And whatever console you have, you're gonna defend it. I don't really do that. I just play games, guys. It doesn't matter what system. Anything that has a screen, I'll play games on it. That's just me. There's no stigma attached to that. You understand what I'm saying? But, I'm tired of these guys that still live with their mom, actually, in the basement, doesn't even pay rent and drives their mom's car to work, if they even work, telling me that Nintendo's for kids. Video games as a whole are for kids, man. It doesn't matter what platform you play on. If you want to go by numbers, and that's the thing too, the Switch is the best-selling system for a reason, right? So this guy finds another excuse and says, oh, well, that's because you have old people, grandmas and granddads and kids buying their platforms, right? So basically, dude, you're just admitting to me that the Switch right there isn't for kids. And also you're admitting that the Nintendo Switch is actually better than those platforms. Because when you have your grandma and your granddad, your grandparents, period, any adult, and people who don't play games to go grab a Nintendo Switch, that only proves and solidifies my point that Nintendo makes games for everyone, and that's why they're selling. They don't cater to one demographic. Nintendo makes games for everybody. And Nintendo's so brilliant. I'm going to give you an example, guys. Like, check out the game Pikmin. Pikmin has been a famous and loved game, a low-key loved game for a while, right? And admittedly, when you look at that game at face value, it looked like something for kids, right? And I remember a buddy of mine, he used to love that game. And I said, yo, dude, that game looks like it's for kids, right? And he just ignored me. He just loved that game. So one day, I downloaded the Pikmin 3 demo on the Wii U, and the Wii U was still a thing. And to my surprise, guys, when I played Pikmin 3, that game blew my mind. It was awesome. Even my wife said to me, she was like, wow, this game is actually cool, man. Like, and yes, it did look kiddie, the way how to design the guy and everything, but when you play the game, it wasn't really childish. And that's the brilliance of Nintendo. Nintendo could make a game look like it may be for kids until you play it. It's not kiddie because it requires a lot of thinking and strategizing, real life strategizing. So that's why Nintendo are geniuses, and developers have admitted when they work with Nintendo are some of the best geniuses in the video game market. And that's what I love about Nintendo. So guys, you never take things for face value. Always try the game first before you say it's for kids. You just never know. Not because it has colors doesn't mean it's for kids. Because PlayStation has a lot of colors. A lot of the games have a lot of colors in there. Is it for kids? PlayStation have games like forget that Playroom game, the game that comes stock with the PS5, I believe. I keep forgetting the name. They have also Sackboy. They have Sly Cooper. They have, what's that game they put on PC? Ratchet and Clank. They have Ratchet and Clank. They have something. They got Medieval. They had Crash Bandicoot as their mascot at one point. Like, Sony has a lot of kids games as well. So does Microsoft. So it's funny how everybody gives Microsoft and PlayStation a pass when they have a whole bunch of kid games, but when it comes to Nintendo, Nintendo's just flat out for kids. That doesn't make any sense. People love to damage control and defend their console. They're acting like PlayStation and Xbox doesn't have kiddie games. Most kids has an Xbox. My son doesn't even have a Nintendo Switch. He doesn't have no interest in Nintendo Switch or PlayStation. He's a straight Xbox person. You understand what I'm saying? So how does that work? You understand? On commutes, I see grown adults with a Nintendo Switch. If you catch me with my Nintendo Switch, You wouldn't expect, if you catch me running Nintendo Switch in public, guys, whatever game you think is kiddie that I'm playing, 10 out of 10 times I wouldn't be playing that game. But they all have the same games. Nintendo has the same indie games as PlayStation and Xbox, the same AAA games as Nintendo and Xbox, whether you feel the game runs perfect or not. And let me touch on the performance of these Nintendo Switch games. Yes, the Nintendo Switch performance isn't all that great. It doesn't really bother me much, right? Or if at all. So the guy says the games runs like crap on the Nintendo Switch, and it's better for a platform to have the games run smooth than to have the games at all. First of all, GTA and Call of Duty, for example, and some AAA games like Cyberpunk is on Nintendo Switch, right? But Nintendo Switch still manages to outsell the competition without Call of Duty, without Cyberpunk, without some AAA games. So that right there already tells me in my eyes, yo, that's an amazing feat, because PlayStation and Xbox need Call of Duty to sell. Nintendo don't. So every time when this guy opens up his mouth and people open up their mouth and bash Nintendo, it only further proves that Nintendo is the best, because they don't need any of those AAA games that you like to sell their platform. But Nintendo games normally sell more than those AAA games, because you know what? Nintendo is just based around gameplay and fun factor. You can, several years from now, when your kids have kids, they can pick up any Nintendo platform and they'll find fun in it. But most people that play PlayStation and Xbox, they get bored really fast, especially with the Xbox. They get bored real quick. Even at work, I know guys that say, oh, I have an Xbox, but I don't play. What games do you have? Oh, FIFA, NBA 2K, Call of Duty. Those aren't real games. Those aren't games you can play forever. But Nintendo has those games, the quality of life games that you can play forever. Decades later, your kids can play those games later. And there's a reason why Nintendo is still here. Sega dropped out of the platform, the console business, for a reason, and Nintendo is still here. Nintendo has made a lot of mistakes as well, but they're still here because their games, their fun factor is what keeps them alive. And if you want to be real, the Nintendo Switch, Nintendo consoles, period, are a lot more fun than PlayStation and Xbox. I have way more fun with a Nintendo platform than I would with Xbox and PlayStation, for the simple fact that Nintendo games are just easy to pick up and play, and they're fun. The way how you play the games, the way how the games are designed. Nintendo games are designed around the strength of their hardware in terms of what they're trying to do gameplay wise. Like, for example, the Nintendo Wii, all the games was designed around this unique motion controller, right? And the Wii ended up winning that generation with weaker hardware. You see what I'm getting at? Because if you look at it now, AAA games are very expensive to make, and a lot of those AAA games doesn't sell well. A lot of those AAA games play the same. When I play a PS5 and an Xbox game, it felt like a game I played like on the PS2. It's like they concentrate so much on the graphics, but the gameplay isn't there. It's just so boring. So it's like they choose gameplay over graphics, whereas Nintendo choose gameplay, fun factor over graphics, and that is why they're winning. So these bloggers, man, that's living with their moms, hating on Nintendo, saying Nintendo's for kids, they're just upset because Nintendo's outselling their favorite piece of plastic. Nintendo's a GOAT. And the guy goes on to tell me that Zelda's for kids, Zelda isn't the greatest game, and Tears of the Kingdom didn't win Game of the Year. Of course, Tears of the Kingdom is not going to win Game of the Year. Tears of the Kingdom is pretty much a DLC. Breath of the Wild won Game of the Year for Tears of the Kingdom. They're the same game. I wouldn't even consider Tears of the Kingdom a new Zelda. It's just a whole bunch. Nintendo admitted it's a whole bunch of DLC that they decided to turn it into a full-fledged game instead of giving us more DLC. So Tears of the Kingdom, I already knew just off that it wasn't going to win. It's not going to win twice in a row. It's the same game as Breath of the Wild. I didn't even, me personally, I expected them not to win. But if Tears of the Kingdom was a different game altogether, it didn't continue the Breath of the Wild timeline, different art style, yes, it would have won. But, I mean, whoever in their right mind expected Tears of the Kingdom to win was just silly, because I even knew they were going to. I already knew Tears of the Kingdom was not going to win It's the same game as Breath of the Wild. It's the same game. The same game is not going to win Game of the Year twice. And the guy said, "Oh, Diablo won Game of the Year." So there you go. Diablo is not better than Zelda. It's not. I mean, Baldur's Gate. He said Baldur's Gate. I think Baldur's Gate won Game of the Year. Baldur's Gate is not a better game than Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, or Breath of the Wild. It's not a better game, especially gameplay wise and art style wise. It's far from it. But every game just needs its time to win Game of the Year. And the work that the company put into Baldur's Gate, it was well deserved, because they took it back to how gaming was before, back in the days where we just had a great game crammed with as much content as they can fit into the game with no DLC. Just a one-time purchase, and that's that. So of course I would have gave it to Baldur's Gate as well. Doesn't mean it's a better game. So so he was trying to damage control at that point. So, and this whole argument started over me giving The Witcher 3 on Nintendo Switch as props, because The Witcher 3 people thought was not possible on the Nintendo Switch, but they made it possible. You get what I'm saying? So just The Witcher 3 in its entirety, which is a 4K game, by the way, on a weaker platform such as a Nintendo Switch, is an amazing feat in itself. Nobody played and bought the excuse me guys, I can't talk. Let me get my bearings back. Let me get my bearings right. Nobody bought and played The Witcher 3 on the Nintendo Switch for the graphics, right? People just was glad that The Witcher 3 made it to the Switch, and they were curious how it ran on the Switch, and they bought the game, they liked the game, and they played it on the Switch. They wanted to play Witcher 3 on the go. Going into The Witcher 3 on the Nintendo Switch, I didn't care about the graphics. I love The Witcher 3. It's a very good game, and I was just glad that I was able to play it on the go on my Nintendo Switch. That's it, and that's another reason why Nintendo is winning. They gave you a console in your pockets. You can't put a PS5, a PC, and an Xbox in your pocket. You understand what I'm saying? So even back in the days, going all the way back to the original Game Boy, the Game Boy Advance, and the Nintendo 3DS, those were handhelds that wasn't on par with consoles. When you bought a Game Boy, you know why you was buying a Game Boy. You know you wasn't buying it for the graphics. You were buying it just to game on the go. Same thing with a GBA. Same thing with the 3DS. It's all about gaming on the go. It's not about the graphics. And actually, I liked it that way, because due to the hardware limitations at the time, because the technology really wasn't there to put console gaming in the handheld, developers were more creative and clever in developing games. So a game that was on consoles that were ported to a Nintendo handheld, such as a Game Boy and DS, they were altered. It was almost like a whole different game, which gave it some sort of newness to it and made you want to play it more, because you were so curious on how that game would work and how it would play, because it's so different from the console game. But it's the same game, but altered on the Game Boy. And I kind of like that, because it just pushed the creativity from the developers. So I think it's quite the opposite nowadays. I think the more limitations a developer has, the more creative he's going to be with his game, versus you have all this power, all this disk space, but you're not utilizing it. It's so many games that fills up a Blu-ray, but the world is so empty. And if you look at games like Zelda Breath of the Wild, there's always something hidden in every corner. There's always something to pique your interest. It gave you a reason to explore. Whereas a lot of games like, was it Final Fantasy, was it 16, I believe, where it was this big open world with nothing in it. It's a whole bunch of fetch quests, for example. Yeah, so, I just had to put that guy in his place, man, and everybody else as well. I mean, I'm not upset. Nintendo doesn't pay me. None of these game developers and publishers pay me to play devil's advocate. But this video is just made for the ignorant people that are out there. And this newer generation, this younger generation, no disrespect, a lot of them are really dumbed down. A lot of them can't read. A lot of them are illiterate. Not all of them, I'm just saying, guys. So if you get offended, then I guess maybe I'm talking about you. But if you're not offended and you understand where I'm coming from, then I'm not talking about you. So, don't get offended when I say that. But, the truth is just the truth. There's a lot of, more stupid people nowadays. People like to damage control and think whatever they like is better than the next product. This guy has a PlayStation, so he thinks the PlayStation is the best. He thinks PlayStation is better than Nintendo. PlayStation is better than Xbox. It's not really necessarily better, man. It's just all about playing games and having fun, guys. Video games are for kids as a whole. And all of us adults, we're pretty much kids. Everybody has kid tendencies. Understand what I'm saying, guys? We're all children at heart, regardless of the age. People do childish things all the time. You look at comedians, right? Comedians, you see them acting silly, acting a fool, the comics. That's the big kid in them. You understand what I'm saying? So we're all kids at heart. So it doesn't really matter what platform you play on. Video games as a whole was designed for kids, and adults were still playing them. Adults were playing Nintendo back then. They were playing Super Nintendo back then. It doesn't matter. You understand what I'm saying? So developers realize that, oh, you know what? We make video games for kids, but we're realizing that adults are playing it. So we're going to step it up a notch. We're going to make the games look more realistic because we want to appeal to adults as well. You understand what I'm saying? So it's all the same, guys. Not because somebody plays on PlayStation, he's better than Xbox or Nintendo. It's all the same. You can't say Nintendo's for kids, but you're in the comment section making kiddie remarks, and I see you playing kiddie games as well. You know what I'm saying? Because Ratchet and Clank, okay, I can say that game is for kids. Crash Bandicoot, I can say that game is for kids. It doesn't really matter. What matters is if you're enjoying the game. And because you think a game is made for kids, I can't enjoy it. Look at Fortnite. Fortnite, actually, perfect example. Fortnite, that's a game made for kids. That game is definitely geared toward kids, and I don't hear anybody making any comments towards that game. And not only kids play that game, a lot of adults play that game as well. So, and Fortnite is on PlayStation and Fortnite is on Xbox. So, okay, so what are you trying to say? Is the PlayStation and Xbox still for adults? And that's the thing I want to know. If Nintendo's for kids, who's the PlayStation and Xbox designed for, as well as PC? Because PC, I would say, has the most games. PC has the most kids game. PC has everything. So is a PC for kids? Is an Xbox for kids? So what is Xbox and PlayStation for if Nintendo's for kids? Because they all have the same games. Nintendo Switch has the same games as the PlayStation and the Xbox. So how does that work? So Xbox and PlayStation gets a pass when they also have kids games, but Nintendo, they don't get a pass. And listen, guys, I don't want to repeat myself, but I'm going to just say it one last time. Video games as a whole are for kids no matter what platform you play on, whether it's PC, Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo. They all have children games. They're all designed for children. It doesn't matter. They're all kids' toys at the end of the day. So stop acting like your favorite platform is for adults and Nintendo just for kids. They're all for kids. They're all designed for kids. And we're all kids at heart. Just play your games and enjoy your games. Because Nintendo actually has more games than Xbox library. So you may tell me Nintendo whole libraries consist of kiddie games? Nintendo makes games for everybody. They make games for kids, middle-aged men, young adults, females, whatever. It doesn't matter. And I also would like to add that the guy mentioned the Nintendo Switch. He said, "It's funny. This guy is so funny." He said, it's funny because there's a whole bunch of Nintendo YouTubers out there. I see more Nintendo YouTubers than PlayStation and Xbox than any other platform out there. A lot of Nintendo is responsible for a lot of these YouTubers' careers, right? So this guy said, "Oh, those YouTubers admitted they got the Switch for their kids, and the Switch is for kids." So you mean these grown men that design, these grown men and women that design their YouTube, that design their YouTube, found success on their YouTube channel for branding it off Nintendo, is gonna admit that it's for kids? That doesn't even make any sense, man. So the guy also says that, oh, the Switch Lite, that's why they made the Switch Lite so small. That was actually a good one and a funny one. The reason why the Switch Lite is small because Nintendo wanted you to be able to fit the Switch in your pocket more comfortably. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Switch Lite. The big Switch is better, of course. The $350 Switch is better. The OLED Switch is better. I hate the Switch Lite, but I have two Nintendo Switch Lites, right? And actually three. The third one, the pink one, which I bought for my daughter because she plays games as well. Now, the reason why I have a Switch Lite is two reasons. For one, I'm a collector. Number two, the Switch Lite is more feasible and makes more sense for me, the more logical choice to take to work, because I have a lot of downtime at my job, so I bring my Nintendo Switch and I play it at work. But you still don't want to be seen with the Switch, so it doesn't make any sense for me to bring the big Switch, the dock Switch, to work where people can see what I'm doing. The Switch Lite is easier to conceal, it's easier to carry around, so that's why I have the Switch Lite. So the Switch Lite wasn't made just for the kids. It was just made to be more portable, because as adults, man, we can't be seen playing a big video game system at work. So we have the Switch Lite where it just looks like a cell phone when somebody sees it. You can easily hide it, stick it back in your pocket, or put it under your desk when somebody walks in on you. When I'm playing my Switch at work and I see people coming, I just put it right back in my pocket, whether my jacket pocket or my pants pocket. So that's why the Switch was created, man, so it could be more portable, and the big Switch to be at home. This guy was finding all kinds of excuses as to why. And then lastly, he said Nintendo Switch games run like crap. Okay, all right, fine, cool. I guess you have a slight point on that, but is that going to stop me from playing video games? You think most people that have a Switch, they care about the graphics or the frame rate? People just play games, dude. I'm from the 80s and Nintendo era, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it doesn't bother me if the game doesn't have a lot of graphics. I started on Atari. I graduated to Nintendo. If you show some kids now the Nintendo how it used to look, they might be like, "Hey, damn, whoa, that's crazy." But that's what we came from. So the graphics doesn't really bother me, and not every game is meant to be had. Not every game is made to have great graphics. Some games is just like I said before, gameplay over graphics. These guys, man, are so silly, man. But so you guys let me know in the comment section, do you think Nintendo's for kids, or do you think Nintendo is for everybody? And do you think video games as a whole are for kids, whether you game on the PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo themselves? I mean, what do you guys think in the comment section? Because personally, I don't think one is really better than the other. And if you want to be real, I would say there is a place for all of them. And to me personally, I like Nintendo the best out of all platforms, because the way how they design their games are just so fun, man. Like, Nintendo games never gets boring, man. But you guys let me know in the comment section. Just had to put that idiot in his place, and whoever thinks like him. Just, hey, dude, Dragon Elite, get the hell out of your mom's house, man. There's a big, vast world out there. Open your horizons, man. Expand your horizons. And stop being so cliche all the time, man. Play more games. And the guy also admitted that he has a Switch. That's funny as hell, man. That's so funny. If a Switch is for kids, then why are you buying the Switch, dude? Why do you have a Switch? Listen, I don't really like kids games, so I don't buy kids games. You understand what I'm saying? Neither do I buy a kids platform. If Nintendo was for kids, dude, I would never have a Nintendo console at all. But whatever. Like and subscribe. Red Crimson, I'm out of here.